So if you want to grow a property business, one of the most valuable skills you need to develop is the ability to raise capital, which pretty much means the ability to find people to fund your real estate projects. And so if you look at the key steps of a property deal or growing a property business, what I call kind of the throughput of value through a property business, there are three things. The first thing is you need deal flow. And deal flow is just a fancy word for your ability to find good deals and good opportunities, and what access do you have to good deals and opportunities. And if you've got good deal flow, of which it's a skill that you can develop, the ability to find deals, and there's certain systems and processes and frameworks you can implement to get better deal flow. Once you've got that, you then need to fund these deals, because if you've got a lot of deals but don't have the capital to fund them, then of course you don't have a property business. But if you can unlock that bottleneck, and if you can find the money, and I'm going to share all of the things I've learned about raising money for the real estate projects we've done and we're doing in this video, you then need to be able to deliver and manage these projects. You've got deal flow, you've got funding, and then you've got delivery and management. And delivery and management, again, just comes down to having good systems, good processes, and really a good team in place. You want to build the team that can deliver the projects, people that are smarter than you and more specialized in certain things. And I'll do a separate video on finding and identifying good deals another time. I'll talk about the management side of things and the things I've learned there. But when it comes to raising money, I want to share some of the belief systems that I've had to adopt, or the mindset shifts that have had to happen in order for me to get better at raising money, to start raising money, and to really embrace it. Because for a lot of people, it's quite daunting. And I know there's going to be people listening to this at the start of their property journey that this might sound like a completely alien concept. You might have heard people talk about doing real estate deals with none of your own money, or buying properties with no money. The reality is, if you want to scale, and I'm talking about people that want to grow full-time property businesses, the active investors that want to be full-time in property. Passive investing in property is a bit of a different conversation, and this video is probably not for you. But if that's you, you're never going to have enough money to do the deals yourself. Your own capital is a finite resource, and that's okay. Even if you've got £1 million in the bank, I can assure you, to do the deals that you want to do, money's going to quickly run out. And so if I ever want to get good at something and get better at something, I want to look at who's doing it at the top, who's the best of the best, who's got the success that I want. And I'm a believer that success leaves clues. And so if I observe them, I'm going to spot patterns. I'm going to find things that I can model and replicate into my own life and into my own business. And so in the context of property, the most successful and biggest property companies in the world are private equity real estate companies. And at the top, you've got Blackstone, you've got, I think, KKR, you've got Carlyle Group, for example. And I checked Blackstone's website this morning, and they've got very clearly two big numbers on their real estate page. One number is the amount of real estate that they currently own, which is around just over $500 billion worth of real estate. And so if you just try and fathom how much that is, and Blackstone own far more than you think. And if you search about transactions they've done in your local city, you'll see they start to own all of these famous buildings, or well-known buildings or monuments or airports. Blackstone own a lot. The second big number they've got is the investor capital they've got under management. And I think it was in the region of $350 billion that they've raised from private investors in order to essentially buy and build a $500 billion real estate portfolio. Another good example I look at is, or I've referenced before in previous videos, is if you look at One Hyde Park in London, a very well-known, prominent development, a very prestigious development just opposite Harrods in Knightsbridge. And this was done by the Candy brothers, I believe developed 10 to 15 years ago now. And if you go onto the Wikipedia page of this site, you'll see that it was a joint venture between the Candy brothers and a billionaire from the Middle East, from Qatar. And they bought what was originally Bowater House. I think it was a government building for $500 million, for around 500 million. And then they got a £1 billion or €1 billion loan from a German bank. But that $500 million purchase would have been funded by their joint venture partner. And so once you begin to spend time with successful real estate guys that have, I mean, I'm very fortunate to be part of some incredible masterminds where I get to spend time with guys that are way ahead of me. You quickly realize that their job, and this is what I've been told as well, your job as a real estate entrepreneur is just two things. You've got to find deals and you've got to find money. They're the high impact income producing tasks that you should be focusing on. Everything else, of course, should eventually be passed over to a team. And so when it comes to raising money, one of the first mindset shifts that I think needs to happen, especially for me anyway, is you grow up in life when you're kind of asking for money, whether it's from parents, and even if it's just £5 or £10, you're asking for parents, or you're asking money from friends, you're out of equilibrium. There's no fair exchange. And because you're borrowing money as a favor, right? When it comes to real estate and raising money from investors, you got to understand that it is fair exchange and you're solving a valid problem for these investors. If you speak to more of the institutional investors, so I'm talking like family offices, which are outfits that are just set up to manage a family's wealth, or you talk at some more institutional banks, their pain point is they've got capital they need to invest. They just don't have the right deals to invest in. So their problem is they've got too much money. They just don't have the deals, which is the inverse for obviously property investors, developers like us at the earlier, smaller stages of our career, where sometimes the deals are a little bit more abundant. The money's harder to find. And actually, I'm at a point now where I find it harder to find the deals than it is the money, because we're very fortunate we've got good access to capital. The key to understand is you're solving a valid problem. So that's mindset shift number one. You're solving a valid problem for these investors. And mindset shift number two is you understand that money is abundant. If you've grown up in a scarce environment where money hasn't been very abundant, it's going to be very easy for your mind to default to like, no one around me has got any money. I hear people comment all the time, sometimes on my YouTube videos, on social media, said, oh, the town I'm from, there's really not many wealthy people. First of all, there probably is. And second of all, you don't need to raise millions and millions of pounds. In order to build a meaningful property business, you can be raising 50,000, 100,000 a pop, which might still sound like a lot of money for you. But once you do the things I'm going to share with you in this video, you'll actually begin to see there's a lot more money around you than you probably predict. And so you need to understand that money is abundant. They're literally only printing more of it. And I think I saw there was a news article around COVID about the amount of money that was in savings accounts, just sat in savings accounts. It was like in the billions and billions of pounds. And so there's money out there, and a lot of people that don't have the time or knowledge to go and find deals, they would rather just fund people like you and I that can go and find the deal, deliver the deal, and they become passive investors. And so how do we actually go out and raise money? Because in this video, I want to give you guys some actionable steps and things that you can implement today and this week to hopefully go out and raise your first bit of money from private investors, even if it's a very small amount. Just doing the first one does more for your mindset than anything else, but gives you momentum and the confidence to go and obviously double down on it and raise more money for more deals. We're at a point now where we've probably raised, or in the process of raising, close to £4 million of money from private investors. And that's across various smaller deals, joint ventures for HMOs that we're doing. I've just agreed yesterday to buy a house in Birmingham. We can convert to 2 or maybe 3 apartments if we get the planning permission, which will be a joint venture with a private investor. We've got a piece of land we own, which we've owned for over 2 years now, which hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to be start building 17 houses. That's a £9 million project we've raised a lot of money for. And I just want to share like the lessons I've learned and the processes we've been through. There's 2 sides to raising money. The first thing is you need to understand actually how to structure the money, because before you even pick up the phone or start having conversations with investors, you should understand first how the actual money works. And so there's things like what's called the capital stack. The capital stack refers to the layers of capital that make up a real estate deal. You're going to have mortgages or bridging finance, or more commercial loans like development finance and bridging, which can contribute towards the acquisition from a funding perspective of an asset. Then you're going to have the equity requirement. The equity is basically a fancy word for the deposit that you're going to be putting in. Where's that deposit going to be coming from? And then also the different deal structures you can have with banks and private investors. How is the interest calculated? What are the different types of mortgage products, bridging products, etc.? What are the legal agreements you're going to need? What is the return on investment that you need to or should be offering an investor, and how is that calculated? Because then you need to look at what is the What is a good risk-adjusted return for the risk that the investor is taking on based on where they sit within the capital stack and based on the deal structure? What is an appropriate return that's going to make it attractive to them, which reflects the risk that they're taking? All of these different things. And you've got debt, so you can have money that you raise as private debt, where there's charges and security involved. There could be equity, and understanding what security, if any, they get if they're putting equity in the deal. All of these different things. And again, maybe I'll do a separate video on how to structure the money within these deals. If that'd be value, guys, please let me know in the comments below, and just let me know your feedback on these videos in general. I'm doing obviously one video every day for a month, and keen to kind of get feedback from you guys. But once you've figured out the structure of the finance and how money should be layered within a deal and how it should be structured, you can then think about how you're going to raise the money. So you found the deal, you figured out a finance structure you want to move forward with, then you need to go out and find an investor or investors that are going to invest. And so one of the core principles when it comes to like business in general, but especially when it comes to raising money, is that closed mouths don't get fed. And people come up to me and say, "Oh, Tyler, I'm really struggling to raise money." And I ask, "Well, how many people have you actually spoken to?" And they say, "Oh, I've spoken to 2 or 3 people." I'm like, it's not good enough. It's like telling me that you've done 2 or 3 Mandarin lessons and you can't speak Mandarin. Like, you've really got to do the reps, but you got to tell people what you're doing. And you don't just go to everyone who you think is an investor. Just tell like friends, family, like, I'm in the real estate game now. I partner with investors. I work with investors. If you know anyone that's interested, come to me. Just start to create some awareness around what you're doing. But a more actionable step, and this is the first thing I encourage everyone to do, and it's an exercise I've done live with friends I've been with, or people I've been helping out when it comes to raising their first bit of money, is if you write down on a notepad or pen and paper on your laptop just the numbers 1 to 20. Just start with 20 down the left hand side of the page, and then what I want you to do is think of everyone you know in your personal network that you think either has some money that they could potentially put to work, or they know someone in their network will have money they could potentially put to work. And in terms of prompts of people to think about, I want you to think of friends, family, friends of friends, family friends, old work colleagues, your old work boss, old clients of maybe previous businesses you've been involved with. You want to open up your contact list on your phone and just scroll, and you're going to see names pop up that you hadn't seen for a couple of years that you think would be worth reaching out to them. You want to look for your Facebook friend list as well. And I can assure you, you'll be able to come up with way more than 20 names. And the key then, once you've got those names, which will take 10, 15, 20 minutes max, is you want to reach out to them. And when I've done this in rooms with people live, this is when the anxiety kicks in, and you can always see there's 1 or 2 that gets a little bit crippled by the anxiety and doesn't want to do it right away. They want to procrastinate, and those are the people that I encourage to do it the most, because you've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and everything you want is on the other side of that fear. And what's always interesting is those ones that always seem to have the most anxiety are the ones that when they follow this process and they reach out to these people are the ones that get the most positive responses. And then you just see their mindset shift, and they realize actually they've been holding back all this time. They've been held back by fear, but there's all of this opportunity within the network that they've not tapped into. And so the message you want to send is one of 2 messages. The key with the messages is you're not selling an investment. You're not there to pitch anything right away. You're just there to you basically sell a conversation, as in get them to commit, if there's an appetite, to have a conversation with you to then discuss the potential opportunity of working together. Because if you go in saying, "Hey, do you want to invest in this property I'm doing?" it's asking for too much commitment. It's a bit out of the blue, and you want to sell the meeting, sell the conversation, not the investment. And so the message is one of 2 things. The message is either, "Hey, I'm getting into real estate, coming across some good opportunities. I'm looking to partner with some people on these deals. Is this something you would want to have a conversation about?" Along the lines of that, obviously everyone's got different ways of messaging and copywriting and the way they communicate with certain friends or colleagues, etc. And you may want to have a bit more of a warm greeting if you've not spoken to them for a while. Or the second alternative is, again, similar thing. "Hey, I'm getting into real estate, looking at some opportunities, and looking to partner with some people on these deals. Who do you know that will be worth speaking with or having a conversation with? Or what 3 people do you know that I could speak to? Not do you know anyone, because when you ask closed questions, like yes, no questions like that, especially British people, they default to just saying no. If you ask who do you know, or even more as a loaded question, what 3 people do you know? It's going to force people to think and potentially come up with some names. And if that individual you're messaging directly is interested themselves, a lot of time they'll just reply back and say, hey, actually, yeah, I'm interested myself, would love to learn more, let's have a conversation. And you say, great, well, let's have a conversation, either in person, on Zoom, or a phone call. And you just want to gauge their appetite. You just want to have what we call like soft commitments. Get them to commit that if you found an opportunity that matched this kind of criteria that you have, would they have an appetite for investing, or would they just want to explore it further? Again, you're not asking for a commitment. You're just gauging their appetite. You're starting a conversation, and you're getting these soft commitments. And of course, throughout that discovery phase, that meeting, you're asking things like how much capital would they look to put to work on the first deal you do together. So you're not asking them how much money do you have. You're just asking how much capital would they look to put to work on the first deal that you would do. And they might say, I'd be comfortable doing 50,000, 100,000, whatever it is. Okay. What's your experience investing in property? What deals have you done before? Have you been a passive investor in any projects before? Yes, no, cool. What was their experiences? Just a bit of a discovery, and take a genuine curiosity in their position and their risk profile and their situation. And then of course, when you have an opportunity pop up, you can then set another meeting to present it to them. So that's step 1, is just your personal network and exploring what I call the 2 degrees of separation. Have you ever heard of the 6 degrees of separation, which states that every human is connected to each other on the planet just through 6 connections, just through 2 degrees of separation? If you know 50 people and those 50 people know 50 people, then I don't know what the math is on that off the top of my head. I could probably figure it out, but I want to say like 2,500 people, if I'm correct. But that's obviously a lot of people that you can tap into. Because if you ask 50 people you know, if they know 3 people that could be interested, like you're very quickly tapping into a big network. Beyond that, there's some more manual stuff you can do, like outreach. LinkedIn is great for outreach if you get it right, and there are various systems and processes for doing that correctly, which I've done myself and taught before. The top of the pyramid really is brand and building a personal brand, which can be quite daunting for a lot of people, but I can promise you the number one thing you can do to increase the amount of opportunity that you have come your way is to build and develop your personal brand. There's a reason people have a lot of hesitations around this, whether it's getting in front of camera, whether it's the imposter syndrome of creating content. But I want to share some kind of thoughts and things that have worked well for me and other people I've worked closely with. But your personal brand is just your reputation on steroids. And if you can create awareness, then of course, like any marketing campaign, because it's all it is, like raising capital is just marketing and sales. You're marketing for awareness, and then you're closing people to commit to partner with you. And personal branding, content creation is, with the internet economy and social media the way it is these days, is the number one way to get attention. The distribution of content has never been as big as it's been before. It's never been as cheap as it's been before to just with your iPhone be able to upload something to social media or on TikTok, and it could get thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views. It's just an example. Obviously, TikTok maybe not be the best platform. It's a great platform to get people into the top of your funnel, to get initial eyeballs, but to nurture people and really build relationships, there are better platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook is good, Instagram is great. But the key to create content is to just start. And a lot of people fall into the trap of wanting to wait for perfect conditions. If you're constantly waiting for perfect conditions, for the timing to be right before you start, I can assure you there's no such thing as perfect conditions, and there'll never be a perfect time to start. The perfect time to start now is now, and you just get better as you go along. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume you've got a phone or at least a laptop, and that is going to be more than enough to create content with an iPhone. Content creation, I want you to think about it like this. You might think that because you're at the start of your journey, you don't have a huge amount of value to share with the world. But the reality is the teacher just has to be one page ahead of the student. And what I mean by that is if you're attending networking events and you've attended courses and you're spending time on YouTube learning, the things that you've learned may not sound like a huge amount to you, but to the masses who have no idea about property, that are one step behind you, it's still valuable information. And you just got to position yourself as, here's what I've learned at this networking event. Here's what I've learned about property this week. And you're not saying you're an expert, you're just sharing what you've learned. And that value is enough for people to get interested and to share it. So just documenting what you're learning is key. Second thing is collaborations. Really like big hack for building an audience is just to collaborate with people. So if you're starting out in property, I would want to be finding people in my local area. This is what I did as well. But for those listening, find people in the local area that are doing deals. And well, two things. One, you just want to spend time with these people anyway to learn what kind of deals are they doing, what's working in those areas, what lessons have they learned, what would they have done differently, who's their team that maybe they could introduce you to, but also by collaborating and creating content with them, because it's a win-win scenario. If you find someone in an area that's doing a 7 or 8 bedroom HMO development, and you approach them and say, hey, look, we'd love to come and see your deal and create some content with you so we can show off your brand, help you build your brand and showcase your deals you're doing to LinkedIn and to YouTube and to Instagram, whatever it is. That's a win for them, but it's also a win for you, because then you can put this content on your platforms and say, hey, I've just spent the afternoon with this person here at their 7 bedroom HMO development. Super, super impressed. Here are 3 or 4 things that I learned. And you could probably create 4, 5, 6 pieces of content just out of that one experience with them. So by building a brand and building media is going to allow you to essentially attract much more opportunity. And the goal is always to become an attraction business where people come to you, they're lining up to do you. They see you're doing deals, they've seen your track record, and the more you play the property game, there's flywheel effects that kick in. The more experience you have and the greater your track record, the more confident people are going to be investing in you, which means you can do more deals or bigger deals, which means then there's more media and content that you can create, which means your brand is going to get bigger, which means again your audience are going to see that, they're going to see your track record, they're going to see your media, there's going to be more people that want to invest with you, and then you do more deals, bigger deals. And so every business, in order for it to grow exponentially, needs to have these kind of flywheel effects. And so if you just focus on those different things, doing good deals, raising capital and creating media, then things will take off. So these are just some things that I've learned. Any questions? I know this topic comes a lot of questions. Ask them in the comments below. And then in future videos over the course of the next few weeks, I'll be answering them for you. Hopefully that was valuable. I'll see you guys on the next one.